Hey, well, how you doing? Good to see you. How's Germany today? Wherever you are. Yeah, it's been a while. Oh, Sam is here. Hi, Sam. Hey.
Hey, good
Morning.
morning.
Wow, how was your meeting before now?
It looks like the sun was shining bright where you are this morning.
Yes, I just woke up like 30 minutes ago, so I'm still trying to get
Oh,
my morning face together.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's different luxury. When you have four children, it's a whole lot different world.
Oh, yeah. My condolences.
My day started much earlier, and it's been a great day so far. I've already enjoyed an incredible breakfast at Torchy's, so I'll make you a little jealous
Oh,
there.
I missed Richie's tacos.
Oh, yes. I have the
Okay.
monk special with potatoes, so it was
Can you
amazing.
just stop?
Couple
I
of
just told you last, like a breath ago, that I missed it, and then you went into details about what you had for breakfast.
well, sorry, that and getting ready for this game a little bit later today. So, it's just life in Austin. It's so hard.
Really? There's nothing happening here. How about that?
You know what? I know living in Oklahoma is okay. So, nobody can complain.
No, well, I think you find your community at the end of the day, no matter where you find yourself. Well, I'm
Mm.
speaking for myself. Quick one. Do you want to quickly send like a blast out to your Facebook page so we can have just a little bit more traffic? But I'm okay to actually get started. Whatever works for you is fine by me.
Sure, you can tell me how to do that.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'll
So,
just
hi,
send you
Margaret. Yay.
the.
Thanks for
So
joining.
here. Oh my goodness.
Can I just click share?
Yeah, I just click on share. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
Yay. Thanks
So
for joining.
here. Okay. Yeah. And let me know whenever you're ready.
There we go.
Great. And the good thing about this is that you can always archive the videos after the fact, and then sorry, the video after the fact, and then share with your friends or people that want to hear more about your mission and why they should vote for you. You have
Cool.
3 more days, right?
Hi, Michael. It's been a while since I've seen you. Yeah, I have 3 more days,
Yeah,
but only one day of voting's left. So
yeah, yeah. So all the very best. How many people are you running against?
I'm running against two other candidates. So
Okay.
there's,
Yeah. All right.
and it's for the at-large position for the city. So there's only two at-large positions on the school board. The other seven are district-specific positions. So um,
So I'm thinking that a large is like a much wider responsibility.
yeah, so the two at-large positions are responsible for the whole school district, every district.
Like a
Um,
supervisor of the districts of this
well,
district.
we have the same role and responsibility as the other district trustees. We're representatives of the whole district and not just one region of the district. And so our
Wow.
main responsibilities are employing the superintendent, holding him accountable for the administration,
Yeah.
And then policy making, improving in the policies, but then also managing the $1.4 billion budget. It's huge. And at the same time, when you give a lot of it back and a lot of it's already accounted for, there's not much to work with. Actually, one of the
Yeah.
biggest problems is there's a $30 million deficit this year that they worked on already to begin with. But as I've been sharing with others, when you look at school boards in Texas, specifically really around the country, most school districts have like less than 1,000 students, and
Yeah.
AISD has just under 80,000 students. Um,
Wow.
and it's the fourth largest organization in Central Texas. So as far as the amount of employees and families that impacts, if you consider 11,000 employees and
That's a lot.
80,000 students, yeah, so there's a lot of impact on the not only the city of Austin, but then future workforce. What do we want our young people to be? You know, what do we want them? How
Yeah.
do we want them influenced, and what kind of quality education we want to provide for them? Because
Yeah.
that's going to impact all of our families.
Thanks for sharing, the differences between the difference or the core difference between the district at large and then the other district positions. And then just the main issue that you've just, highlighted about the impact of your position and how they can do so much more, not just for the students you're going to be helping, but for the workforce, given how well represented they are in Texas. I didn't know that fact. Um, Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started, even though we've been asking questions and answering questions left, right, and center. Welcome to the show, everyone. This is the More Sibyl Podcast, and this is a segment of the show where I get to bring a guest on Saturdays, and we just talk about stuff. And today I have with me Samuel Russo. I call him Sam. I have known Sam for how many years now? I don't know. A little bit less than 7 years, I think. Yes, Sam and his wonderful wife Amanda. Their home was like my base every Friday when I lived in Austin, and we'll get together just um, for
To eat
community,
good
love of each
food.
other. Yes, and break windows. I broke that windows. I think once. And yeah, they're wonderful people, and they have 4 kids. And Sam graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a degrees in communications studies. I think with organizational behavior or something, like with a focus on organizational behavior. He's self-employed and is an ordained minister, a photographer, and a father of 4, ranging from 1 to 20 years old. Whoa. So join me in welcoming Samuel officially to the show. Okay, hello Sam. All right. So let's go back in time. You were born and bred in Austin, right?
Yep, born right here in Austin, so proud of it.
Okay, and I know your story a little. I know a little bit more about you than probably people that don't know you, but they know you're running for this position. Um, I'm going to ask about the watershed moment, meaning the moment you realize that, okay, I need to do something for my community. I love this community so much. I need to do something. But can you give us a rundown as to what life was for you like growing up in Austin and why you love the city so much?
Yeah, definitely. I think that our city is a world-class city, and it's a world influencing city. So if anybody's heard me talk for very long, you'll know that I'm a proud Italian, proud, Texan,
I would
and
never have guessed.
and a proud Austinite. So we got to reduce some.
There's always garlic bread in his house. If you want to know what kind of Italian he is.
And olive oil on our
Oh
cabinets
yeah,
is
yeah, and
olive
olive
oil.
oil, yeah.
You know, it's requirement in our home. But yeah, so our city is a beautiful city. I was born here, but not only was I born here, I've just always felt like, despite options to go to other cities, that this is where I belonged. Even when it came to university choices, it was like, this is home. This is where I belong. This is where I want to be educated. This is where I want to influence. This is where I want to meet my wife. This is where I want to start my family. This is where I want to have a legacy and an impact. And so, as a result of having that knowledge, really, since I was young, it's helped me to cultivate strong roots and wide roots, networking with uh, people throughout the city, in the school systems, in the nonprofit organizations, and really just in our community. I think sometimes a lot of people struggle with connecting with their community that they're living in or their neighborhood they're living in because it's this transient mentality that I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And once I plant
Yeah,
roots, then I'll commit all the way, you know. And
yeah.
if you're living in Oklahoma, I understand that, you know. It's kind of one of those like, I'll wait till I get back to Austin. Oh, I'm just joking, kind of.
I
Um,
felt that.
but the reality is, when you live in a world-class city like Austin, you're proud of it and you love it. You know, you want to create roots, and that's something that was just part of the way I grew up. So that's why 15 years ago, just even when I was in college, it was I'm going to serve our city. And so we've done so in so many different capacities. I've been uh, incredibly blessed to be part of a great church that's invested lots of resources into the city as far as projects, beautification
Yeah,
projects, homeless ministry, working with our school systems. Um, and so that kind of launched me into regular routine mentoring, tutoring, connecting, seeing issues and needs in the school district and attending to them. And I think that's what our community wants to do. Unfortunately, sometimes we kind of get in this mentality where the professionals do the professional thing and the community can do their community thing, but we have to work together
yeah,
if we're
yeah,
going to really begin to solve some of the issues that we have.
yeah.
So yeah, that's how I got started.
You can't even work in silos anymore because, take for example, even in my position, the NIH, which is one of the largest grant organizations for scientists, now they have this thing where they call team science, where you have to work with people that don't have the same background as you. It's about the only way you can really get funded these days. You can't work, by yourself. You have to work with other people who think differently, who can approach a problem from a different angle than you think. So that way you have like a holistic um, view of the problem and you can do great stuff together. So just wanted to buttress your point with that fact.
That's right. I think that your greatest idea generation comes from working with a multitude of people. When you have
Yeah,
that diversity, you generate more ideas, and in turn, you're
of
going to have
opinions.
a better idea. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think, unfortunately, all too often we look at diversity in too much of a limited way, where it's like, okay, what's your skin color? What's your zip code? And that's our way we're going to determine diversity. But the reality is, diversity is many times more of thought, ideology,
Yeah,
that has an impact, and culture, really. What we're
yeah,
bringing to the table culturally that's going to impact our ideas and how we're
yeah,
going to influence the most people. Um, all the way to, what's your personality? Are you an early adopter or a late adopter? What kind of people are you going to influence in the process of accomplishing our ideas? And we need that. We need everybody. And right now, I definitely think that our school district, for example, can use more of that, can use some more
yeah.
diversity in ideology and diversity in personality and culture.
Very good. So I've known you for a couple of years now, and I kind of saw this coming, but at the same time, I was like, I didn't see this coming. But then I look back, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Because I know you did API as well. What would you say was that moment where you realized, okay, because I know you've been involved in schools, like you're very particular about just how kids are being taught, how they're growing, how parents are involved in the school. Like you're very hands-on with, your kids and their education and all of that. So it made sense that you wanted to take this to a bigger level. But I was just curious as to what was that watershed moment where you realized that, okay, I can't keep just having these conversations with people around me. I want to take it to a bigger level and run for this position. What changed for you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, serving has put you on different committees. And so I began to serve not only in volunteer capacities, working with individual students in schools. I started working at the district level on an advisory committee. And the district advisory committee is the most diverse committee for the school district. It pulls from people from every vertical team. That means every high school has multiple middle schools and elementary schools that feed into it. And we have parent and teacher and principal representation from each of those teams. And so, because it's the most diverse committee, the DAC receives every monthly um, conversation, communication regarding every initiative at the school district. And so, when you start attending those on a regular basis, you begin to realize, wait a minute, Where's the diversity in the conversations that are here?
Mm,
Who's speaking up and beginning to challenge sometimes this is our protocol, these are our procedures, and then begin to say, are those procedures really being followed? Because that's not what I've
mm,
seen in our individual kind of communities. And so really that was the catalyst. It led me to one meeting to the next to say, hey, parents, are you aware? Are you engaged in areas where this district is saying one thing, but the implementation is definitely not reflecting that?
mm.
Or we want implementation that's being reflected, but the district is trying to change it. And so I think one of the goals is to become one of the primary responsibilities of a board trustee is community involvement, being able to be a person who can effectively communicate to the community, who can utilize multiple technology and environment tools to be able to reach the community and continue to message what's happening. I think one of the other areas where I differ from my opponents, both of them, is that I am a huge supporter of parents and guardians for their involvement. And I feel like there needs to be more of a respect and an engagement in the role of the parent, less engagement of the district has a policy and this is the way it's going to be. You either have a choice or you can get out. And that kind of mentality, the do it our way or get out kind of thing,
Yeah.
really kind of leads to a decline in enrollment. People don't want to be part of an organization where they feel like they don't really have an influence or a voice or even are able to be heard when it comes to issues facing their children and their students.
So that when you say reduction in enrollment, would it be like an increased number of people that want to homeschool their kids and pull them away from the school system, or just those
That,
that don't want to engage the district office?
Yeah, actually, it's thousands. The school district has lost thousands of students a year over the last
Whoa.
a continual basis. Even in high enrollment areas, we're seeing some of the lowest enrollment in kindergartner students. And it's not just really, it's not even going to homeschool. It's going to any number of alternatives, whether that's homeschool or that's charter school or private school. Yes, there's more opportunity and access. Charter schools are creating more of a competition, and I think that's healthy. Unfortunately, we have looked at the charter school as the enemy. And we've said we've got to get rid of these charter schools and they're starting to drain our school districts. But actually, I look at it in this perspective, it's a competition that's going to make us better. And if we're
Yeah.
better, then our students and our faculty, they're going to get better. And so, Mo, you're a doctor. You have committed much of your life to education and educating as a professor. So you tell me, as a professor, is it better when you're in an environment where you're at the top environment where you're learning, you're challenging your students, you're researching, or do you want to be in a place where, there's not a lot of challenge? It's just kind of the run of the mill. Everybody has to come, so everybody has to come. What kind of
It's funny
environment do you want
you, it's funny you mentioned that because on my teaching statement, which I had to write before I got my job, one of the things I put there because I like to provoke my students, like I like to create my environment in such a way, my classroom environment in such a way that I'm letting them think about the world they live in and engaging them in their thought processes. So yeah, there has to be a little bit of challenge because that's how you learn. That's how you learn, and you bring in everybody's how they like their relative contribution to the class based on their culture. Because we teach the way we teach pharmacy is we teach pharmacy practice, but we also look at culture because culture has a role to play in how people take their medicines or not. And so everybody in your class, even though they might be American, they might have different background. Maybe their parents immigrated from different countries, and those kind of things like add to the beauty of the class. And sometimes you have to have conversations that people aren't necessarily comfortable with when you talk about ethics and for example rationing and providing some healthcare services and not providing other ones. So yeah, I do believe in the good use of a challenging environment to grow, but it has to just be done judiciously. Yeah. So yeah,
right?
challenge all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, comfort is the biggest threat, right, to
It
success.
is. It is. It is.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
so we've been that. Actually, we take it for granted. We need to have education that's accessible for all. But at the same time, we have to remember that if we get into a position where we just assume it's going to be there for everyone, then we get apathetic. And as a
Yeah.
result, we fear competition rather than embracing it in a way that's going to make us produce higher quality learning
Yeah.
environments.
Or even learn from the competitors. Like, what are the charter schools doing better than you guys are doing? Maybe
Oh,
they're engaging the parents more. The parents have a better say,
yeah, so there's multiple things actually that's been seen, and one is they do better in marketing. Flat out, they market
Ah,
what
rule of
they
thumb.
and marketing is such an intriguing thing, especially among our generation, where a lot of us don't want to engage something that seems par, subpar. We want to be something that's excelling and part of the best. And I want my kid to be a part of something that has the top programs, and programs that are going to be accessible, not just,
Yeah.
talked about. So
Yeah.
marketing, they do that better. They do better in customer service, where you do feel like you have a voice that's heard. You
Yeah.
feel like you can get information when you need it. It's a smaller environment, but also discipline. It's going to be an environment that's more controlled, tends to be. So you don't worry about your child going into a climate where they're actually learning,
Yeah.
because the environment is so chaotic sometimes that learning can't happen. And so we
Yeah.
need to address these issues so that we can continue to encourage engagement across our district.
Very good. Just want to do some shout outs. Yvonne stopped by. Hello, Robert. And then Taiwo is saying hi. He said, hello, Sam. Been ages.
It has
Um,
been good to see you, Taiwo.
so you had mentioned earlier that you've had or was it thousands or 1,000 kids being lost through the system? And I was just wondering, like, was there like an exit interview done to find out what their main reasons are? That's one question. And then the second one is this attrition rate, when you compare that to the national average of, people pulling their students out of school, is it out of the ordinary or is just, part of the course?
Sure. Well, to begin with, yes, there was actually a multi-million dollar campaign done throughout the city to be able to market more people into the school district, and to do interviews um, for figuring out why people were leaving. The school district has two full-time paid employees who right now are covering 30 of the 130 campuses to increase enrollment through very strategic targeting marketing efforts. And these are in the most under-enrolled areas or where the most competition goes to. And so we've learned a lot from that. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I have shared along the campaign process is the number one reason why families have left the school district is because of the way the school district has made them feel. And not necessarily the students, it's the way that the parents have felt. Um, I've shared it before, my student and others have been told they were in a need for potential 504 care. They have an issue that is maybe with the health of their student. And you get into a process. Well, when you have a large school district, this process is supposed to be done in a timely manner. But when you're just simply told, hey, there's 1,000 other students ahead of you, we'll get to you when we get to you, it doesn't feel very transparent. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
access points. And that could be dangerous for parents when they don't feel comfortable, they don't feel like they have access. Um, to answer your other question, whether or not our district is at level, like
Yeah.
for example, with mental health, we're not. We are so behind the average when it comes to care for our students in that area, but we always want to be above average, regardless. We never want to be par. We want to be just like we're saying, again, if we're going to be truly competitive, we've got to be above average. One of our elementary schools here in District 4 has over 650 students and no counselors. And the assistant principal is having to take on the counseling load
Wow.
when the average, suggested average, should be 250 students to every counselor.
Yeah.
Um, and now I understand when you're in elementary, that's a little different. But the reality is, we have a lot to do when it comes to mental health and providing access for our students to get the treatment and the care they need. Um, yeah, so that's a priority. But that all at the end of the day comes down to budgeting. Where are you going to put the money? And
Yeah.
we're already millions of dollars in the hole. Where are we going to cut spending so that we can provide what the the district values. And how do you do that when there are so many people saying, well, I value this and I value that?
Yeah.
Make those determining factors.
So I'm going to use that opportunity to turn that around for a question for you. Now, given that your position is going to, be handling a lot of this, how are you going to do that? How are you going to solve that problem? Given that you have like 3.2 million in deficit already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you look at the $1.4 billion budget, 670 million or so is going back to the state of Texas right now in our recapture. So there are people that are lobbying for that to change, for property taxes, et cetera, to be adjusted. Okay, so that's one area. We're trying to lobby that. We're trying to reduce our cost of our debt. But at the same time, we have to look at the money we are spending. Top priorities for me are focusing on teachers. Are we equipping and paying our teachers in a way that is fair and a way that rewards those who are giving out more? And are we taking a broader scope when it comes to addressing this issue with the large community? Well, we are. We've created a budget stabilization committee that is looking at areas throughout the entire budget that could be cut. Right now, they have done a good job at exploring that, but I don't think they've gone far enough when it comes to
Yeah.
opening the conversation up to the whole district. We've got to do better at engaging everybody to say, where do we find our priorities? Now, this is what I think is a struggle. We have top programs like, for example, dual language or all pre-K, that's all day pre-K. They have a return on investment that's been proven so far to reduce academic achievement gaps among minority groups, among special need groups. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to make sure that those top programs are being funded and accessible to everybody, which means in turn, some other programs are not going to be. And cutting is not easy. But cutting becomes easier when you communicate in advance. You give people
The
a clear
value.
vision as to why you're having to do this, and you get them on board and to the where you are going to be spending your money. But unfortunately, a lot of times things just get cut, and you're like, "Wait, why did that happen?" And I had no idea about it. Wait, my school's closing? Nobody told me my school was closing. I didn't hear it from our PTA. I didn't hear it from our neighborhood association. And now I've got to merge with somebody else and change our pattern, our habit. We've got to do better at communicating. And this goes back to our customer service piece.
Yeah.
Another big topic, and you can explore this more in a second if you want, but we tend to get, because we are in Austin, we tend to get ourselves into conversations on subjects that are polarizing, and we take polarizing topics and we make them our priorities. And as a result, we lose students by it. And we also get off track when it comes to focusing on what I do think should be priorities. So, for example, we can focus on a lot of hot topic issues that certain special interest groups want you to focus on, whatever that special interest group is. In my
Of the
last
day.
debate for exactly, in my last debate, for example, it was flooded with questions that were coming from special interest groups. And I wanted to just call a huge pause to the questions and say, listen, when the scorecard that our district uses as part of their strategic plan shows that only 31% of African American students are meeting grade level reading standards, 31% are meeting grade level reading standards. For Hispanic students, that's only 40%. The majority of our school district are Hispanic students, and only 40% are reading at grade level. Let me tell you, those are shocking statistics. If you're economically disadvantaged, only 33% are reading at grade level. If you're white, 80% are
Yeah.
reading at grade level. Now, do I think it's because we have a racist school district? No. Do I think there are obvious inequities? Yes. Do I think that we aren't making this a subject of our conversation enough? Yeah. I think that we have got to be determined to say we're not going to be addressing special interests until we can figure out how to reduce this
Close the
achievement
gap.
and
Yeah.
equity
Yeah.
and close these gaps.
Yeah.
And I think this has to be a point of consistent, determined focus. We're going to close the customer service issues, the climate issues, the consistency issues that are aiding in this inequity.
Yeah. I mean, I could play devil's advocate and say that, if you compare the 80% you talked about for whites and then 40% for Hispanics, and 30% for African American. There could be other factors within the household that can impact those gaps, but even still, that's still a huge gap. They might not end up meeting an 80% if we don't address other social determinants of quality of education. So take for example, I mean, studies have shown that white parents they have more involvement in their kids' education as far as helping with homework. They are more likely to be highly educated. But then still looking at 30-40% compared to 80%, that's abysmal. So yeah, I agree with that. I think you've kind of really talked about your three C's. You've talked about the customer service. I haven't heard about the climate and the consistency. So do you want to share more about that and why you chose those mission statements?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we definitely have to have top customer service that goes over and above in communicating changes, communicating issues that directly impact our individuals and our schools across the district. And that means that we have to create systems in place to hear issues. Our school district doesn't even have a help desk type of system that can field varying conversations and questions that are coming in. So meaning you can call the district or you can email the district and you might get a thank you for your application or thank you for your reply, and that's it. There have been multiple
No
occasions where
feedback, no follow up.
I have firsthand been given promises from high level administration in the district that I will get back with you. We will make this change, and there's never been a response. I have
Oh,
called and left concerns, and I've been told, well, that phone number no longer works, or we had people who were in that department who weren't trained. And the reality is, we can't allow that to happen. If I'm going to write a letter to my legislator, I am going to get a letter in response back that says, thank you for your concern in this area. This is where we stand on this right now. And there's going to be follow up. We have to do better than our government. Come on.
I know.
We're a government agency, but we have to do better to be more personal and to develop some systems where there's going to be adequate communication in that area. When it comes to climate,
Yeah.
our climate has safety concerns. We have polarizing issues that are dividing the culture of our district. We want to say we're one family, but at the same time, we have current trustees who have come out and said, if your ideology doesn't line up with ours, the ideology we have set at the district, you're not welcome in our district. Now, that's in direct opposition to massive $1 million of campaigning across the district saying all are welcome. It's truly a lie to say all are welcome if you're going to in turn say your ideology is not welcome here. And we don't want to participate in working with you or your community if you don't agree with our ideology. That in itself is a dangerous climate that is going to cause people to leave. In addition, if we continue to create programs where we say, hey, if you want to be a part of this, then be a part of it. If you don't, then, whatever. We're not creating an environment that's allowing people to engage. And safety is an issue. I have brought to the attention of the district in front of major panels that, for example, you can volunteer. I have volunteered for a long time uh, at the district and had never been flagged for volunteering on an ongoing basis. So what happens when you do that? You get trusted at a particular school, and then all of a sudden you get left with the whole class, or you take individual students alone to the library, etc. And if there's not extensive background checks going on for
Yeah.
everybody who's volunteering on a regular basis, we're not creating a safe environment for our students. Um, on top of that, our schools are old and outdated, and there's $1 billion going into remodeling our schools, and that's incredible. And I want to make sure that that is going to be properly addressing issues when it comes to safety.
Yeah.
That we're going to have plans in place, and I feel like I am the best candidate when it comes to my opponents who has a training when it comes to safety across different facilities and campuses. I'm the best candidate when it comes to marketing. That's my background. And when it comes to communication, I have a degree in communication with focusing on mediation and focusing on upper level management between when you're looking at breaking down teams and strategies. So when you look at that background and you look at the issues that are facing our school district, not the issues that people want you to focus on, but ones that are really impacting enrollment, I feel like I can answer those questions the most. And lastly is consistency. You can have top programs and great programs, but if you're only making them accessible to certain groups, certain classrooms, certain schools where people are where it's not equitable across minority groups, etc., then you're basically telling people, go to another option. Go to the nearest charter school, engage your students in a private school, because we're not able to make it accessible to you. And I'm sorry, but just saying take our bus system across the district to do it doesn't work. Students don't utilize transportation if it means, even though it's a great program, a far majority of
Yeah.
them aren't going to get on a bus and travel an hour across town to take part of that program. So that's why we've got to narrow our school district's top programs down to the best ones and then make them truly accessible to everybody. And I feel like this will impact our consistency. Consistency goes across the board in a lot of areas. Like when it comes to, for example, if you are a business and you want to partner with our school district, you want to resource the school district with money, with funding, you've got to figure out every campus is different. Every campus has a different PTA, and the PTA is the one responsible. Should a PTA really be the one responsible fully for getting the funding into the schools? Shouldn't the school district have something that's far reaching? And we do. We have an ed fund. And the Austin Ed Fund, however, is not really adequately communicated on an ongoing basis that this is a way that can field ongoing businesses. So just researching and finding consistency across that can make our district a lot better overall. And consistency also looks like closing the achievement gap so that 31% of African Americans and 40% of Hispanics
Yeah.
aren't matching the 80%. We've got to get everybody above average, and we can't manipulate our statistics to make us look better. But then how do you market a school district and say, hey, listen, hey, minority groups, come to us, where 40% of you are reading at grade level? That's really hard. But if you can say
It's
we're a
still better than
risk.
0%.
Yeah, right. That's not going to work. We're better than 0%, right? That's not going to work. Which means we've got to be strategic in the areas that we are. We can say, listen, we have recognized this stat, so we are intentionally providing top programs that have a return on investment to reduce that gap here in your school district. We're not only intentional about it, but we've got the top professionals in our admin staff who are doing it, who are addressing it. And your voice matters. Your voice is going to be able to be heard and lowering that gap, because we're going to focus on reducing this achievement gap, because we want your students to come into an environment where they're going to be supported. You mentioned some other factors that impact those achievement gaps. You're right.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can't impact those factors? Certainly not. I feel like we can. Part of that means resourcing teachers in a way where they can go and do at-home calls, where they can go back to some of those old school personal measures where they can say, hey, I'm going to go do personal home visits, feel the culture that's going on here, and bring that back to the classroom so that our classrooms can
Yeah.
be a more winning environment. And beyond the teachers, the administrators, getting our principals accountable for failing grades or failing classrooms, and then really resourcing them so they can be in the community more, and seeing what's going on in our homes and our environment.
Very good. Thanks for those for fleshing out those 3 points. I
Sure.
had a piggyback question on the climate. I think one of the major issues we're having these days is where everyone has been put into boxes. Like if you believe this, you're here, you're there. Now, how would you go about working with people whose opinions differ like greatly from you? And I know you from hearing you speak, you wouldn't adopt that approach of, well, if we don't agree, don't come join my bus. But how would you go about really engaging with people that don't share the same beliefs as far as core beliefs and the values and your missions, the mission of your position?
Sure. Well, for years, I've engaged in friendship with you, and that's been a beautiful training ground.
Sure that. If you can do it, you can too.
you know, you,
Damn.
that's the reality. We've got to be honest with one another. And I feel like you and I engage so well together because we are open and honest. And regardless of where you stand, I'm going to come to the table and we're going to have a conversation about it. We're not going to be afraid to have the conversation. And one of the things is having the training to say, I'm not going to use statements that say you're not welcome here. Or most recently, our city council is on the news right now in Austin because one of the council members said that the certain values group that was speaking, and this is a hot issue right now, so I'm bringing it up, but they basically said, we don't like you. I don't like what you stand for, the things that you have advocated for. And although you have the right to speak to the council, I have the right to walk out of here and I have the right to not listen to you.
Uh,
Now, listen, I truly believe that when you get elected to an official position to
public
serve a
position.
community,
Public position.
public position to serve a community, you forfeit your individual right to walk away and to not listen to the different views and values. And it saddens me that the rest of our council, with the exception of one or two maybe, did not challenge that councilman to say, listen, that's not the culture we want to create here in Austin. We do not want to say you can walk away and we have the right to not listen to you. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to sit on the dais, you're going to listen, you're going to write down and take notes, and then you're going to say, thank you for your opinion, thank you for your perspective. We need to go and discuss this as a group. Now, when it comes to our Austin School Board, right now, the way it looks like when it comes to diversity of thoughts, I might be within in many areas, a minority view. In fact, I believe, as after talking with one of our current district trustees, she's told me that I definitely would be a minority perspective in some areas. And as a result, we need that. Because if we don't have people on the board who are representing the minority, which in a group of 80,000, who also represent a larger area of 500,000, the minority still looks like, 10,000 people. That's a lot of people on certain topics,
Yeah.
50,000 on other topics. They need representation. So in many cases, I'm going to be the one that's saying, listen, I want to be in this conversation. I want to stand up for this conversation because I have been the minority and I have been cast aside and told, listen, I've been told actually from official people in the district, we didn't know people with your values still existed in our district. And we didn't know people with your perspective still existed here. And so we need to have that conversation. We need to be able to say, listen, who's going to be pushing the conversation to say, we're not going to relent, we're not going to get distracted until we can close these achievement gaps.
Yeah.
And we're not going to, get off topic until we can do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, just basically engaging with people, regardless of whether you agree with them or not, because you're in a public position. You should be able to listen to everybody and then find a middle ground where you can keep engaging. Basically, openness and engagement. Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be a minority for once, Samuel?
you know, um,
You
I
don't have
can't
to
even
answer
say
that.
that I can't even say that I can understand because I really can't. I can't even
Yeah.
begin to understand what it feels like. But at the same time, being a white male in America has become, especially a white Christian male, has become
Easy there.
villainified actually.
You're
And
you're becoming extinct.
yeah, right. Well, so in some ways, it's something that says like, I'm not a villain and I'm not against you. I actually support people that I care about, everyone, and I have been serving globally a diversity of people selflessly and sacrificially,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I want to see them succeed. I actually just got back from Panama, and it was an incredible time spent there. We were with thousands of students across many different public campuses, and I wouldn't be doing that if I thought those people didn't deserve the love and care that we can give, and actually learned a lot more from them than maybe they learned from me. Um,
Yeah.
and some of the things we learned, actually, the one is the biggest takeaways that I think would relate to this position here is that they do so much with so little. When you walk into a school where there's thousands of students and 100 staff, and they're working in a way where they're rotating facilities. They have one facility and they're doing rotations of in and out of students. They have lunchrooms that are the size of some people's closets here in America. You know, I have to say, I am so proud of the innovation and the creativity and the determination to succeed in that environment. And I want to see that here in Austin, where we don't just say we're entitled to the very best and we're not going to win and succeed for our students unless we have it. Really,
Yeah.
we have to stop pointing blame to every other issue and take full responsibility of areas that we can control. And that's part of my message as well. We can't point blame politically. We can't
Yeah.
say that our problems are all on the current legislator and until they're changed and out, we're never going to get better. Or our problems are on our debt and recapture until that changes, we're never going to get better. That's just not the case.
It would be a lazy way out of not tackling the problem. Anyways, thanks for answering that. Just want to do some shout outs. Mrs. Adebo is on the line. Hello, Mrs. Adebo. And the wife, Amanda, is here. Felix is
Woo!
here. And then Debbie Flanagan. Debbie had a question for you. And I'm going to go ahead and ask that. If you have questions, go ahead and type them. So, Debbie wanted to ask Sam, what are your thoughts about pre K programs in AISD? One, and what kind of things would you do to improve them in AISD?
Yeah. So when it comes to pre-K, I want to say, Debbie, thank you for being an incredible teacher. 30 years serving,
Whoa,
I believe, and
Debbie.
and many of which in AISD school district. I'm not sure if all of it's been in the school district or not. I'd love to hear back feedback on that. One of the things is really valuing even some of our retired teachers to say, what are the highs and lows that you've done? Let's go back and look at some of the things that were successful. You know, I find it funny, but a lot of times we actually have successful programs that we've utilized, and then we try something new and we forget to go back and reevaluate where some of those other programs were successful and why, maybe reinitiating some of those. I think I've said at the beginning of this conversation, one of the top programs for us would be full day pre-K, accessible to everybody across the district. Why? Because there's been a proven return on investment that when students get enrolled into pre-K or some type, especially in minority groups, where they have accessibility to learning the language before they get into the school district, their ability to read on grade level by the age of third grade and beyond, it skyrockets. So we
Is that
have
like
to
the Head
invest.
Start program in a way?
Say that again.
Like the Head Start program, like the early Head Start program?
Right. So we
Yeah.
have the ability to make this accessible. We've been doing it, just not across our district. So when you get that tool into the hands of the community and they're able to engage their students at a young level, then we're going to see people reading on grade level much longer term. And so, yeah, I'm fully in agreement with that. I think we need to do that. And then we need to listen to our teachers who have been working in this pre-K. Sometimes we have this, I don't know about you, but this perspective, if you're not a professor, or you're not teaching high school, that you may not be really the same quality or same level of a teacher in the education system as our pre-K teachers. But that's all backwards. If we don't have quality, successful, committed pre-K and early childhood teachers working with our students, then how are they going to have a foundation to succeed and get to the level of high school and college, right? And where we're formulating partnerships with parents to equip parents. Somebody's loving this. I'm not sure who that is, but how are we going to equip parents to be able to reinforce some of these values at home? And some of that's messaging, getting among the public and letting them know, parents, you have the tools to partner with us in helping your students succeed.
Very, very good. Thanks for that. Debbie, let us know if that answered your question. And if anyone is listening and they have questions, go ahead and type. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you this. So, looking at your experience, you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, and you've served in the role of a volunteer with the school district, and I know you've done a lot of volunteering as well through API and all that. So compared to some of your opponents that might be a little bit more qualified as far as what they have directly with the district, how do you say you stand apart from your opponents, and what makes you the most qualified candidate for the job?
Yeah, definitely. So when I look at our opponents, it stands apart in some multiple ways. One of them I already mentioned, which is just kind of more of an innate belief that our parents should be the ones who are most empowered. Our students should be empowered, which means we have to release some of the top-down control that says we're the expert and you need to follow our system, our pathway, and that's it. But we need to empower our parents a little bit more. I believe in some more of that control. Which is also funny because my opponents, I guess, in some ways communicate for less government authority and less government oversight when it's government legislator that they don't agree with. But then when it's
Um,
politicians that they want in office, then they want them to have a lot of oversight. They want them to determine policies. I've learned in the last debate that in another area that we kind of have some disagreement is I believe that we really shouldn't go against state law. I believe that when the state has put forth laws to govern and protect our school districts to ensure that they're providing equitable and ethical education across our state, that we need to follow that. If we disagree, we don't need to find the loopholes and figure out ways to manipulate for our ideology to succeed, but we need to figure out ways to ethically engage our community to get engaged in ways that will influence the state. So if the state disagrees, then we have a responsibility to communicate that to the community and let them get involved. In turn, this teaches our students and those who are responsible, we are trustees for a reason. We should be trusted with our policy making. But how
Yeah.
can we do that if we're setting an example that says we can bend the rules where there's not going to be enforcement? So it just comes down to really an ethical side right there. And that really is the case on a lot of deep held value beliefs. I think that there are some laws in place that I don't agree with on a value system, but that doesn't mean I advocate for breaking the law. I advocate for the government to be the government and for us to find our ways to fight for and advocate for the areas that we want to see breakthrough. And you know what happens? Then you're responsible to create really a culture which says we got to get our community engaged. And we want to see our community values reflected, then we really need to prove that by getting the community engaged. So that's a difference. One of my opponents, she is focused fully on legislative initiatives, finance. I do think we have people who are lobbyists with the district who are focusing on that. I wouldn't be in that area. Another one is that I've come from a perspective of being a community member. I come from the perspective of being on advisory committees. My opponents have not served on those advisory committees. They have not served in, one of my opponents has not served at any position that I'm aware of in the school district.
Mm.
Some special interest groups have said she's got twice the experience as me, yet she doesn't have any children who have even entered the school district. And she has never served on any of those committees that give her a wide range of knowledge on the issues facing our school district. However, I've been serving for 15 years on various capacities across our school district, from East Austin to South Austin to our North area school district. So I definitely think I come with a wealth of experience there. I'm also the only candidate who's taught sex ed. I'm one of the only candidates who's done mentoring and tutoring in kind of a para system, where I believe that our school district has a lot of areas where they can be strengthened by partnering with the community to come in and work with students. Community, I've actually shared like engagement programs, like community education programs that will allow us to partner with nonprofits. I think we need to do that more. And so I'm an advocate for that. And I feel like I have gotten a lot of community members engaged. So yeah, those are just some of the ways on the journey in the campaign that I've realized that we're different. And I also want to say one last area that's different. I have never pointed blame politically for the areas that we are the issues that we're facing in our school district. And I'm the only candidate that has gone to not only the Libertarian Party, but the Democrat Party, the Republican Party. I have gone on the campaign trail with and meeting with all types of people. I'm the only candidate that believes that if people want to rent our facilities and pay the school district money, it doesn't matter what their ideology is. We have to have an openness to all ideology and openness to all people. And so when I say all, I mean all. I have been public versus my other opponents that says, listen, I am not running in one particular political group, but actually in all their flyers, because this is a nonpartisan campaign. But yet my two opponents are running a partisan campaign. They're running because there is a majority partisan group here in the Austin area. And so they believe that they can run a partisan campaign and get the majority of votes. And I just feel like that's really an unhealthy posture for a school board trustee. We have to be ethical. We have to be willing to be trusted. And when we say we're going to be for all people and listen to all people, we can't get elected to a position like our councilman and then say, by the way, I really never agreed with you, and so I'm not going to listen to you. And
Yeah.
I feel that that might be the case with our opponents, because I have been tuned out, I have been lied about, and I have been publicly written and mocked in certain ways because they feel like they know our opinion. We can't do that. We can't afford to label one another or families or people in our school district. We have to fight to break down labels. We have to fight to make sure everybody's heard. We have to
Yeah.
fight to not be a partisan opponent, right? Campaign. So
I like that. I really like that. Thanks for sharing that. I think you need, based on your responses, you need to add two more C's to your three C's: clean and community.
yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so it's gonna be five C's. Um, just a final question for me would be, so I mean, you've done all these things for 15 years, even because the way I would imagine is you saw some opportunities to serve and give back to the community, and you just did it, even though you probably didn't know. And I want to be sure about that. You probably didn't know how it was going to lead to this, correct?
Not at all. And nor
But
am
you
I
kept
doing
doing
this
it.
for any political platform. I'm not trying to advance a political career. I've not
Yeah.
been in the political arena at all, unlike other opponents. So this is totally
Okay.
sacrificial.
I guess as much. So for like young people coming up, how do you instill that? Like, what kind of tips would you give them as far as being consistent and actually being disciplined in the service of others? And because you don't get paid for some of these things you do, you're taking out time to like give back to the community. Like looking back now to your younger self, if you had been a bit reluctant even doing any of these things, you probably won't be here today. So for those that are younger, or even those that are as old as me, or that are still a little bit standing, like sitting on the fence on these issues, like what kind of tips would you give them to motivate them to go out and serve the community? Because you found
Yeah.
your calling in a place where you were in the service of others.
Yeah, thank you. This is where I have a personal belief, and I know that when it comes to our faith, that's not something that engages in the public arena, really. But part of my faith is serving. I believe that Jesus came to serve men, not to be served. And he set himself that way. And so that is why we lay down our lives when we are tired, when sacrificing isn't fun, serving is never convenient, when there are opportunities to volunteer. We do have to be wise about not exhausting ourselves, but at the same time, we we obey his example to go out and to serve. I remember one of the very first times I was serving in an East Austin school when I was young, and I had a partnership with a young boy who he had never had anybody come alongside of him just to listen and just to kind of hear his burdens. His mom was in and out of jail. He had no father. He never really had any kind of background in home. So you feel like what you were saying earlier, his odds of succeeding academically were slim. I remember when I was talking with him and he said, I wrote him a card and I came on consistently showing up. When I'm going to volunteer, you're going to be consistent. Came on a Friday and gave him a birthday card and a little book, what I written in it. And he'd said nobody in his life had ever given him a birthday card before. He'd never had his
Oh,
birthday celebrated. It was those moments where you realize, man, you're making an impact and putting value into somebody that he'll never be able to repay me or give me anything back, but I can give to him because that's what we're called to do. And that led me to serve others, and when you serve students maybe consistently on an ongoing basis, you can see the result. You see them graduate, you see them get married, and a lot of times we're too busy moving from place to place or seeking a new fix here or there that we're never consistent enough to reap the reward and the benefit of being faithful to serve in one place. And so, again, I'm thankful that I've been serving in the city for a long time where I've been able to reap the rewards of that consistency. And I think when people stay committed and stay faithful, they'll be able to do the same.
so be faithful, be consistent, and be committed.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Any final words to those that maybe, I think you should just talk about your website a little bit and then just a final plug as to why they should go and vote for you and when they need to do that by.
Yeah, no problem. One, thank you, Mo. Thank you for hosting. And you host on a regular basis this podcast or Facebook Live or?
Oh, Facebook Live it depends on the audience I have, not the audience, like the guests. It's
Okay.
really hard to like get people to come on video to like talk because it's totally not scripted. Even my regular shows are not scripted. But I have a Thursday podcast. Episodes are uploaded every Thursday. That's usually pre-recorded, but this is live. And not
Okay.
everyone is comfortable with video. I'm not even very comfortable being in front of people like talking on video. I prefer talking than being heard, than being seen, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have a great smile, so it makes it good. Worth it.
Thanks.
To answer your question, it's Sam, the number 4, AISD.com. And there's information on there as well, but most of it you can click on the Facebook icon to go to our Facebook site where you'll be able to get more information, or you could just search on Facebook Sam for AISD and learn a lot more about what's coming up. There is no more voting until Tuesday, and that's our last day. So we'll be tuning in for the victory party right after that on our Tuesday election that's coming up. And everybody else can get involved. Listen, if anything, right now I need people who will be willing to go out on Tuesday and pass out flyers 100 feet from the entrance of any voting area that's near them. If people can do that, help get out the name recognition for people as they're getting ready to go vote, so they can know I'm the candidate that is running for all people. And we're going to run in a way that's going to have an impact on our whole district. And I want to say thank you to the countless supporters. I've been blown away and thankful for the people who have given many hours of time, thoughtfulness, financial support. People have come along my side, many nonprofit groups. It just blows me away when I look around at the community as a whole here in Austin and the support I've received. So I'm eternally grateful for that. Yeah.
Wow. So you've heard it from the horse's mouth. Go ahead and cast your vote. You can't vote until Tuesday, but also find ways to get involved in the community. If you want to help out and passing out flyers, reach out to Sam. I posted his website, Sam4 AISD. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sam. I know you're very busy. You could be anywhere else today. Thanks for um, the whole, because we had to plan a lot around this. And I'm glad I finally got you on the show. And it's been a huge honor talking to you. Thanks for sharing your vision with us and just why this is very important. And you've given me a lot to think about, because education is just one thing that not being from here was one of the things I've had to learn. And that's why I volunteered for API, and I got to learn a lot as well. And now that I'm in Oklahoma City, I'm a little bit more determined now to really get involved outside of my profession and see ways to help, especially kids in the inner cities who might be struggling with things like math and English and things like that. So thanks for that encouragement, Sam.
Yeah,
And
definitely. And a
yeah,
shout out to
anyway,
my wife who
yes,
watches the kids
Amanda,
many times
honey, and the
so that I can get
kids,
some of this.
and yeah, yeah. Thank you, and thank them for me for letting you be out for an hour, because I know you gotta go. But
Yep.
thank you, thanks to everyone for the questions, especially for Debbie for that really wonderful questions. And yeah, well, have a good day, Sam, and I'll catch you around.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.